Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm Seth, ancient Python programmer and grizzlied startup adventurer. And don't believe what the AI says about me. I hear it's been spreading rumors that I'm actually just three algorithms hiding in a trench coat. I can assure you, I am human. We're going to talk about six, I call them death flails. Every piece of advice on the internet has told me not to call these things death flails, but to instead call them like six signs that your startup is failing or something weird like that. I like death flails. Death flails kind of like drives that point home for me. Like imagine a dragon like in its final throes, like rah, rah, it's like, oh there it goes, oh, and it's like knocking things off the wall, like oh my gosh, it broke the picture on my wall. Like yeah, imagine that. I think that's a better visual than, the final death nail in the coffin of a startup. So we're going to go over six of the most common ones that I've seen during my 25 plus year career in the startup industry. The first one's one of my favorites. It's the eerie quiet. Shh. You have the startups that go from posting on their blog every day, tweeting, forcing their employees to like and share their LinkedIn posts. Yep, don't do that. That's so awkward and it's weird. LinkedIn is its own beast, like appreciate it for what it is, but forcing people to share your blog posts on LinkedIn doesn't really get you anywhere. But you've got that startup and they do that. They post every day and they're working on things and they're publishing new things. And then one day they just kind of go quiet. And you think, all right, well, it's a Tuesday. They're busy with other things. And then a week or so goes by, and you're thinking, well, maybe they're heads down in the trenches. You're about to release a new thing, and about 6 months later, you're like, where did these guys go? Like, they got real quiet. Yeah, that's usually one of the first big signs that crazy things are happening behind the scenes. Usually things like they're trying to get an M&A happening, or they've laid off their entire marketing team. Just keep a watch out. Like when they're really, really, really loud and noisy and then one day they just go silent, that could be a warning sign that something might be going on. Tied to that one is number 2, the hiring gridlock. Hiring is a thing that startups do. Startups are hiring all the time, every day. That's kind of the point, is that you don't have enough staff or enough resources to handle the influx of customers that you have. That's what you're trying to do, is build a high growth company. So when companies go from desperately needing a VP of engineering and a CTO and a new CIO and CFO to hiring freeze, yeah, that's another big red warning sign that maybe something's not going as right as you would hope. There is something to pausing or slowing down hiring, especially when you're fundraising or just trying to keep your finances in control. That's one thing. But when the train is moving full speed ahead and then all of a sudden it just comes to a dead stop, yeah, that's definitely a warning sign. The third's a little bit harder, the desperate pivot. And desperate is a really, really, really important word in front of this. Pivoting is a big part of startups. That's kind of how you're finding your way. You're not this big, you're not the Titanic. Maybe you are. You're not this huge, gigantic ship that's got momentum and moving. When you're an early stage startup, you're kind of trying to feel your way through. When you're feeling your way through, you'll have to make changes. That's very different from this weird shift in direction. One day you're a marketing company, the next day you're a SaaS company, the next day desktop software. No. Those aren't pivots. Those are just desperate flails trying to find anything that will gain traction. That's definitely a huge warning sign. Next on my list is number 4, the cost-cutting frenzy. Cost cutting. Again, that goes back to you're trying to be a good steward of your investors' money, and even your money if you've put money into this, and everyone's time and energy. So you don't want to spend everything all the time. And on the other side of that, sometimes you have to chop off things. Like if you have 10 extra servers, okay, I get it. Like you need to cut costs somehow. But that's very different from we don't need backups anymore. Like, well, no, I mean, we do. Like, maybe we don't need 30 days worth of backups. We can get away with 7 days worth of backups, but don't just completely turn off the backups. Or we don't need a CRM system anymore. Well, how are we tracking our leads? Yeah, like that's very, very different from the being a good steward of money. That kind of cost cutting usually holds up a little warning sign in my mind. Number 5 on my list, the executive exodus. This one's for a little bit larger startups. Usually don't see this at the early stage, but once you start getting to like the Series A, when the CFO suddenly wants to pursue exciting new opportunities, that's usually a pretty big red flag that something is going on. Usually the CFO knows before anybody else at the company, so definitely keep an eyeball out for what the CFO is doing or what the people holding the purse strings, how they're handling the situation. If they're in it and are engaged every day, you know things are going well. If suddenly they're going on 6-month sabbaticals, there might be a problem. And finally on my list, number 6, the savior search. I personally have been dragged into this. I've literally been brought in not knowing that this is like the last day the startup could be alive, and been paraded in front of the board. And here we go. This person's going to come in. They're going to implement AI and everything's going to be better. No, like if AI is not in your core business proposition, how on earth am I going to save you? Like, how is a social media guru going to suddenly show up and you're going to blow up and you're going to go viral on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever system people are using these days? I really can't keep up with them. If the survival of your business is hinging on Kim Kardashian retweeting you, I think you're in a bad place already, so you should probably just call it a day. So now what? What do you do? What if you are an employee at one of these startups, an investor in one of these startups, or worse, one of the founding team of these startups, and you're just now realizing, oh my gosh, we're doing this? Well, not a problem. It's okay. This is kind of part of the ecosystem. Like, VCs even plan for failure, so don't worry too much if a couple of these tend to sting a little bit. You'll be fine. As long as you do the number one thing, the most important thing in all of human history and all of startup history, communicate. Be honest, be open. You don't have to communicate to everybody. Don't hop on TikTok and show the financials of the entire company. You'll probably get in a lot of trouble for that. But it is okay to sit down with your employees and say, hey guys, we're in a tough spot right now. We tried some marketing and it didn't work. We had a couple of sales fall through that we were really relying on. What do we do in this situation? There's so much value in that style of communication. That has saved more startups than I've seen it ever hurt. Like, I can't think of a time when a CEO or founding team has sat down with us and spoken about the hardships and everybody get up and walk away. Usually people will hunker down. There's a reason why you're working at a startup. We all love this. So yeah, we're probably going to hunker down and help out. Like the sale that fell through, maybe somebody has a connection and can help you out. That is totally fine. If you're an employee at one of these startups, again, what I was just saying, hunker down. Like, you're in this, you knew this. If this comes as a shock to you, you probably shouldn't be in the startup industry. I know those are harsh words. I'm not trying to be mean or cruel, but there are people who are risk averse, and I would not recommend that you join a startup because startups historically fail. And in my life, I know in my family's life, we're totally cool with it. Like, we know that's going to happen. We have our cushion. We live our lives a certain way, knowing that something might happen. I know people who can't tolerate that. Like, that's very stressful for them. That's okay too. But know where your limits and boundaries are. So definitely don't get into an early stage startup if you're risk averse. If you're an investor, you should know this by now. Unless you're a brand new investor, and if you are, that's terrifying that you're watching my videos and reading my blog. You should be ready for this already. You should know that this is happening. Like, this should be just another day. Like, sit down with the founding team, talk to them, force them to communicate if they're not communicating. Again, communication is key here. As long as everybody's communicating and talking, it's very rarely a problem. So there you have it. There are my 6 death flails of a startup, or 6 signs to look out for when a startup is failing. Think of them as Seth's Death Flails. I think that's the best way to put them. Remember, the most important thing, regardless of this list, is just to communicate. As long as you're communicating, things will go way, way better than anything you could possibly come up, alone without letting people know what's going on. So thank you and good luck out there.